Hey guys, welcome back to the Diet Doc Life Mastery Podcast. I'm here with Dr. Kori Probst. We're going to talk about a psych and motivational mastery topic today, rejection. So just that word, Kori, rejection, is probably kind of weighty to hear. And I know we're going to talk about some unique facets to it. So I'm just going to let you dive right in so I don't waste any time.
Yeah. Rejection hurts most of the time. And we always hear people say, we need to learn how to bounce back from rejection, right? And I've always thought, bounce back? Why would we want to bounce back? Wouldn't we want to bounce forward when we've been rejected? Quick recovery maybe sounds better. Like, can we recover skillfully? Sometimes it's not going to be quick, and maybe it doesn't need to be skillful. But like I said, rejection hurts, and there is research has shown this, Joe, that we feel when rejection occurs. We feel it physically in our bodies, and the same areas of the brain that activate with physical pain activate when we have been like socially rejected. And you hear it in different figures of speech where you're like, God, I felt like I was kicked in the gut. Yeah, it actually feels like that. Or, you know, maybe you're involved in a romantic relationship and you were rejected and your heart literally feels like it's being broken. You know, I've talked to a number of people as you get into older age, a lot of times your spouse passes away, and you hear so often that it's not long after that, you know, the partner that was quote unquote left behind passes of a broken heart. That's not necessarily the same sort of rejection that we experience in society a lot of times, but it gets to the point of how the body actually registers loss. And rejection is there's some level of loss in that experience, because so often, Joe, we have this identity that we become tied to. I remember when I first came to Evansville, I just had come on board as the wellness director of the Diet Doc. I remember one day when, you know, Kori was writing her blogs, and Joe was the guy who was going to give her feedback on her blogs, because Joe was an excellent writer. And I submitted my blog to you, and you came back to my office and handed me this paper, and it was like red. It was a sea of red. And I just literally, I felt like you had reached in, ripped my heart out of my chest. And I think that I just like instant tears.
Yes,
I don't think I could talk.
Yes,
remember that moment?
Yeah, like it was yesterday.
So, like, I remember like it so vividly too, like it was yesterday, just the pain of that moment and having to collect myself and, you know, being a therapist too. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? But so much of it came from this identity perspective. I came from being called like an excellent writer. I wrote for the school newspaper. You know, I had a really great blog. I was writing for community publications and magazines. And then I get this. I had never had a piece of writing annihilated that much.
Hey, can I call a timeout real quick?
Okay.
Oh, only because, you know, your influence in my life, flash forward now almost 12 years, is such that we have created this emerge strategic consciousness tour.
Yes.
And the reason that is so exciting to me, because my role in this is talking more about the different areas of the brain and how we can operate from different perspectives. And for me, again, I'm admitting I absolutely blew the expression of my intent. But my intent was, since you did value writing, so this is Joe operating out of just the neocortex, not the limbic system, not thinking empathetically about how you would receive it.
Right.
I was excited to show you every little grammatical thing you could improve and every stylistic change that would even make this blog better. So, but again, absolutely, I totally blew it, did not think through that. So again, now what we're working on in the future with clients and audience is, you know, how to integrate, how to know what part of your brain you're engaging and why and how does that even happen, and neuroplasticity. So anyway, I will stop my timeout just by saying thank you for, in the last 10 to 12 years, even making my own growth and interest in this area possible, because it was moments like that as a reflection. You know, I heard somebody recently say that as a healer of any sort, he said, my goal, this was Dr. Brett Jones in LA, he said, my goal is to be a sacred mirror. And you were that for me. You were that in showing, wow, I just caused somebody to feel the pain of rejection, even though I thought I was academically doing something very, very great and progressive.
Yeah. Well, and I think, Joe, you're speaking to something really important in terms of that. How do we recover skillfully? And for me, it was in recognizing that intent. Joe is not coming to me with this bloody piece of paper to hurt me. He genuinely believes that I want to be better, and he has a lot of very valuable tools and a skill that he can use to help me with that. Okay, that's where I went wrong in responding. And this is not to say that we're not going to have those reactions. Like, this is evolutionary. Talk about how the brain responds to rejection. Like, millions of years ago, this happened. But if we were in a situation where we experience rejection and, you know, I'm part of a tribe, and then I go off by myself to lick my wounds, and I'm like, screw you guys. I'll do this on my own. I don't need this. Guess what? I'm going to die. I can't function on my own. Now, in a situation like that, yeah, there's a lot more threat to being and trying to live and survive on your own, right? Threats are different today. However, social rejection often leads to us isolating ourselves, us pushing people away, us becoming depressed and severely anxious, and then us not wanting to feel like we're burdening other people, moving outside of the group and becoming very disconnected and becoming very lonely. And then guess what? We're in the same exact boat. This is how people commit suicide. So there was me recognizing your intent, but then there was also me recognizing that, look, Kori, you're taking this very personally. You have moved outside of the blog to you as a person. Joe didn't reject you as a person. He is rejecting some of the things that are occurring in the writing that's on this piece of paper. Those two things are very separate. So part of the quick recovery is in recognizing that I am a me outside of being an excellent writer. You know what? Because there are a lot of, and you were the first person to kind of bump up against that identity, I have a lot of other identities. I have multiple identities. You have multiple identities. I'm also a student. What do students do? Well, they love to learn. A student needs to be able to look at that piece of paper and be like, whoa, I never knew that grammar. Listen to me talking right now. I have a PhD. I never knew that grammar. I'm an athlete too. And what is an athlete? Well, an athlete typically is resilient, right? We're able to take feedback well and then begin to integrate it. I am practicing being very growth minded. And I like to think, and I have lots of examples in my life, that I'm a risk taker. When I don't have all of the information, I still can move forward in a seemingly wise way. So I had to go through that process, Joe, and ask, wait, what else am I? Because I am very myopically looking at this situation as an excellent writer whose identity was just annihilated and slashed in 50 million pieces by that guy who thinks he knows everything about writing. And that's the other thing about rejection is we tend to go into him or her, that person. Joe's a jerk. I am blaming him for how awful I feel right now. Or the other side, which is where I went, I was kind of mad at you for a second, but then I went internal. Like, I'm not cut out for this. Like, can I actually do this? Can I actually write another blog? This thing is a piece of crap. And then I went to, you're a piece of crap. So
where I like that this conversation has gone is the fact that you've got the giver and receiver of rejection and all of the operant conditions in there, the things that could be misconstrued and internalized or externalized.
Yeah.
But there is some good in this, and some counselors, some psychologists would say that we need, controlled ways of rejecting to keep our autonomy, and that's actually good, because if you kind of go totally, I hate these cliches, but the people who argue online, the liberal snowflakes who are all about just being ooey gooey, syrupy, like just tolerance and all of that. Like, no, there has to be some friction. There has to be some boundaries. There has to be, sometimes you really do need that punch in the gut to know that you need to improve. But hopefully we can get to a place where it's done more skillfully and relationally.
There it is. Constructively. That's what constructive feedback is. And that's what you said, like that whole incident had you learning too, how to do that in a way that Kori's spirit isn't sucked out of her body and fractured in a million pieces. So there's work on both of our parts. What you're describing, the literature actually calls post-traumatic stress growth. We're used to hearing PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, where we really fall into this place of ruminating about the difficulty and personalizing. And I'm really undercomplicating and making this so much less complex than it is. But post-traumatic stress growth means that we are able to move forward, bounce forward from call it an incident, call it the situation, and perceive it in a whole different way, in this growth-related way, and asking, what might I learn from this? And what are all of the other identities that I have? And how can I use those identities as a way of responding more wisely? There are people, Joe, who actually, because it's so uncomfortable for them still too, as a way of becoming more resilient and having a greater level of fortitude around rejection, have set a goal to be rejected a certain number of times.
Right. I know that.
There have been a few people who've written about it, written books about it, but one woman in particular that I read about, she set a goal of being rejected 100 times. And this was in the course of applying for jobs. And, you know, what she found is because she set an intention about being rejected, it lessens the blow. It lessens the pain. It lessens that physical feeling of being kicked in the gut because we're actually going after it. And so it does push you in a way to take risks because it's like you expect it then. Mm-hmm. If I had handed you my blog and thought, okay, you know what? He's going to have a lot of things that he's not necessarily going to like, that everything that he's learned in terms of writing is going to tell him that's wrong. And it's going to come back full of red. What a great opportunity. Like, that's a completely different way of responding.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, Kori, first of all, thank you for not murdering me back then.
It's a good thing we're separated by thousands of miles.
That was helpful. But no, this is what an incredible topic. I think this has so much good information. It's something that I have definitely, you know, not just because of that one incident, but over the course of the last 10 years of all of my work in social science writing and social psychology, you know, emphasis on social, meaning you have to learn how to work with people and appreciate people and have those boundaries of autonomy versus collective interest. So awesome. I really appreciate you doing this today.
Well, thanks, Joe. And let me just end this by thanking you, too, for your continued mentorship and for the openness that we are able to communicate about this sort of thing with each other. As uncomfortable as that was in that moment for me and the space that I needed initially, I think the beautiful thing is that we were able to come together and share with each other where we were coming from, and not in that moment, not take it personally, but truly feel, like you said, that level of connection so that we could move into the next situation that we would inevitably have and still do and come out of it stronger.
Yep. And once again, guys, if this kind of thing interests you, some of the things we talked about with neuroplasticity and how to become a better version, more neurally integrated version of yourself, Kori and I are taking this show on the road. So if you have not seen our Emerge Strategic Consciousness posts on social media, let us know. We want to get that to you.